Chapter 13. Looking up at the underbelly of the American church. Legions of fruitless followers paying the bills. I heard that phrase from the lips of my pastor friend as we sat around a table during a pastor's prayer luncheon. We were lamenting the change of life we had both experienced in ministry. Things were so much easier when we were in the big corporate church with multi-levels of pastoral staff, each specializing in a specific role. Now we were both in struggling downtown churches with small congregations in dirt-poor neighborhoods. Yes, he said, I miss the days when legions of fruitless followers gathered and paid the bills. What a perfect phrase for some of my own experiences. I had to confess that I missed it too. It was nice in the big church to focus on one or two roles and be a specialist as numerous others took care of other areas of ministry or business which never once crossed my mind or my plate. Things are so much harder now in a tiny church as a solo pastor with no support staff. Even what I'm really good at, I can't do as well because there's not enough time to specialize. But we both admitted that being on the front lines battling poverty, loneliness, despair, and hopelessness is a lot closer to biblical Christianity than sitting in the affluent church. We both thought this is where Jesus would be if he were to come to our town in the flesh. But we both missed the ease and the accolades of being in the big church. On any given Sunday, right here in the greater Spokane area, thousands of Christians will gather in hundreds of churches. Millions of dollars will be collected in the name of Christ just this Sunday alone. Countless hours of sermons will be preached. Thousands of hours of Sunday school and Bible study will occur this week. Do you have any idea what all those thousands of people and millions of dollars and hundreds of hours of teaching and study will produce for the poorest, most destitute, most broken, and lost people in our downtown? What the direct benefit was to the 100 or more people who wandered into our church for a meal? Not very much. Volunteers of America was in the neighborhood. Catholic Charities and a few liberal groups were all down here working, but the evangelical, Bible-believing, Jesus-following, relationship-proclaiming churches had little effect on those 150 people who walked into our church. Any given Sunday, we would have a room full of some of the most broken, lost, wounded, hurting people in our town. 6 or 7 Christians would be cooking and serving in our kitchen, and another 4 or 5 would be mixing among the poor and the homeless, praying, laughing, joking, encouraging, and sharing the love of Jesus. Only 10 Christians, maybe 12. That's all there usually were in total. The funds to produce this meal came from friends outside of our church, mostly out-of-state people. A business leader who was a board member from another church in town sent his monthly check to help. Numerous friends of my wife's and mine who still lived in California, Chicago, and Arizona would give the majority of the financial support for our meals. The megachurch, 2 miles away, just finished a lengthy series on helping the poor last fall, was represented once or twice for a while by 2 people. Looking up at the underbelly of the American church from down here at the bottom of the world was changing my faith. I keep hearing that there are churches who want to help the poor, but I didn't really see it. First Covenant is located on a main intersection of the busiest street in town. We were 2 blocks away from the only interstate within several hundred miles. Given our location, I'm sure every single one of those churches that wanted to help has board members and pastors who have driven right past us in the last several months and never once stopped or called to see if there's something going on. It's the story of the Good Samaritan in real life. While we lay there on the side of the Jericho Road, struggling to stay alive, the priests and the Levites passed by daily, never once stopping. The Volunteers of America, Spokane Neighborhood Action Program, Gonzaga Campus Kitchen, Feed Spokane, and even Providence Healthcare stopped by. Samaritans by any evangelical standard of definition. Pastors, deacons, elders, Bible teachers, and small group leaders kept driving by on their way to study what it is Jesus wanted them to do. I've spent most of my life as one of those drive-by Christians. I've spent time in comfortable roles at affluent churches. Now that I found myself down here looking up, I know that I should have added more action to my practice of faith. Jesus said that he came to preach good news to the poor. In truth, I've spent most of my Christian life preaching no news to the poor. I have so much to learn. Maybe it's time for a change in how church works.